Hey, this is Mike from Minimal 3DP, and today we're looking at the final release for OrcaSlicer 2.3.2. So let's go ahead and get started. Before updating to the latest release, something I always recommend you do is go to Help and show the configuration folder. And I would highlight everything in that folder and just add it to a zip file. In my case, it's added it to archive.zip, and then I've moved that to a different location. I found particularly on Mac, when I do uninstall an app, that can periodically get rid of all my customizations. Now, OrcaSlicer does do some backups, but they're all in the same folder. I like to get everything out of the config and move it somewhere else. So again, you just go to that configuration folder, highlight everything, add it to an archive, and then just move that archive somewhere else so you have it safe. And that again just backs up all your settings to make sure that you're good to go. Now, they do have the backup built in where it'll go to Bamboo Studio. I found that sort of unreliable depending on how many settings I have. And so I found my method's probably just about the safest. Now, if somebody else has a different way to back this up, please feel free to share. I'm always open to new ideas and new information. So with that being said, let's slide over and start taking a look at the new features in OrcaSlicer 2.3.2. So one of the features that I rarely use, but is getting more and more interesting to me, particularly with the latest changes, is that of fuzzy skin. So what we're going to do is take a look at those settings and how they might be helpful and usable. So I'm just going to right click here and go to Handy Models. And I'm going to pick the Orca Cube. And let's actually make that bigger. So I'm just going to go over here to the scale and I'll bump that up to 200. So it's larger, we can see it. I'm just going to right click on it, go down here, and I'm just going to change the filament to the red because I think everything shows up better on it. Now looking at this model, delete part of that, you can sort of see it has a smooth surface. And if I hit slice plate, slices fairly quickly. Again, that surface is smooth. Go over to Other in the settings. Go over to Other in the settings. If I scroll down, there's fuzzy skin. It's marked as disabled. I'm going to change fuzzy skin to all walls, just so that way we can see the changes. And right now it's set to classic. And what classic is doing is basically just jittering the nozzle. So it is not doing, it's sort of like random noise. And you can see that fuzzy skin look. But again, that's just a jittering of the nozzle. That's not necessarily a mathematical pattern. And fuzzy wall, let's change this over to Perlin. Hit slice. You can see that's a different look, more like a pillowy look. Let's keep going down here. I'm going to go to Billow, and I think that's also going to give it a pillowy look, or cloud-like look, I'm sorry. Again, different look. And one of these, if I remember correctly, should actually give it a leather-like a pattern, almost like cracked leather, like a car seat or an old wallet. Again, some of these look pretty interesting. Again, that to me almost looks like a leather or a rock texture. So pretty neat, different stuff, different ways to handle this. I could see again for grips or other organic style looks. Now this is not random noise. These are actually mathematically generated. So again, interesting stuff. We have a couple different ways of doing this. We can go combined. And let's slice this again. And there's different things happening here. So we have some different options on how we handle that fuzzy skin look. And these are creating some different things here for us. We have some other options here to how we use this or how we put this together. It will help us change the aesthetic look. So with that being said, let's switch over and take a look at a different feature. As you can see, I've added the Stanford bunny to my plate. I have all my normal settings. I've turned off fuzzy skin. I'm going to hit slice. And you can also see that I do have the staggered seams all set up. And you'll notice it's putting seams right here on the front of the model, doing the aligned. And let's change this back. So you can see those seams aligned in the front. And I'm just using this seam position aligned. Now, if I change this, I can go over here to a new setting that's aligned back. I can hit slice again. And as defined by the front of the plate here, so you can see this is the front, it's now putting the seams in the back. So maybe you're hiding it a little bit better if this is the face that I guess whoever's using this model is going to see. It's much better to have those seams aligned in the back. They're still sort of hidden anyway. You might not see them as much, particularly on a shape like this, but this gives you some added options. If we take a look at the release notes, there's a really good description here. Basically, it's talk about the idea of a sculpture or a model with a viewing angle, again, similar to this bunny, where this is the front side of the bunny. You want this look as good as possible. And now all of those seams are hidden in the back, so they're not particularly visible by your main viewing angle. So again, really handy feature, helps with those aesthetics to get things to look really good. And the last feature I'm going to look at is we're going to take a look at the new ironing settings. Now, before I move on, I should point out that this is actually an older feature I just showed. And again, it shows how there's so many dang features in OrcaSlicer that I tend to miss things. So again, I apologize for showing an older feature, but hey, it's an older feature I hadn't been using, and now I will. So let me switch over and take a look at ironing. So I've loaded the ironing test model, and I'll link to this in the video description. What I've done is just go over to quality and the latest version of OrcaSlicer, do all top surfaces, and then we have some new options here. We can go down here to the fixed angle for ironing angle, and basically that aligns the ironing direction across the model and across layers. It's a little hard to see, but we're going to switch over and just take a look at the older version versus the new. This first model is the old version, and I'm going to pick this up and see if the camera will focus in on it. It's a little hard to see, but you can see some striping across here, across these models. Now I'll look up here at the top, even some of these faster speeds. When I look at it visually, maybe not so much on the camera, not all these, there's a lot more artifacts, I think, on the surface. They're not quite as clean. Now, this is the new version, and this is using with the fixed ironing angle. And I'll be honest, a lot more of these seem smoother to me just looking at this across the board. Now, I'm also going to point out, and this is interesting, it actually seems to do a little bit better at what I believe, and let me check on this, is a slower speed. So what I'm going to do is, this is ironing percent, so it's 10, 20, and this is the 30 row. Now I have my two versions overlapping here. And if you look, I think the newer, particularly here on the, and let me line them up perfectly, on the 30%, the newer actually looks cleaner and more uniform. This almost has, this has a very uniform look to it across all of these. For these, they look like some random artifacts across. So again, interesting new feature. And I'm also just seeing a lot more of these look smoother on the new version, which means I'm probably going to need to adjust how I'm doing ironing. I'm going to encourage everybody to update when you have a chance. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. Again, I apologize for looking at an older feature, but hey, we all miss stuff. So again, I'll talk to you soon. Have a great night.